Welcome to Talking Giants presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my guest co-host, Robert Smith. Because it's Saturday, because it's the first day of draft month, we can't put out our mock draft or our actual episodes out on a Saturday, but we couldn't start draft month without giving you guys some content. So we're doing a bonus mid-round draft prospects episode, this time with our good friend Robert Smith, who's been a regular all since the season's been ending. You've been a regular.
I love it.
We saw that the Bears weren't on the schedule this year for the first time since 2016, and we've been getting our fill on these draft profiles.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, talking draft is so much fun. That's where so many teams get better, and the Giants are no exception. I mean, you've got a wide open division. Obviously, the Eagles, obviously awesome, but so many teams in this division, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants too, are going to get better this offseason. And the East should be a lot of fun to watch with an NFC North that looks to be a little bit on the pitiful side. I can't wait to watch a lot of the battles that'll happen close at home.
I don't think we've announced it on the show, but we put it on Twitter. You're going to be joining us for our live stream for the draft, which is going to be really, very exciting. It's just always a huge weekend. So it'll be you, me, Justin, you, and Football Grump. Danny King is in California, so he won't be joining us this year. But you're flying up to the John Boy Media office. We're going to be cranking out draft stuff. It's going to be fun. And I mean, the Bears on the clock. What pick are you guys at now? 7 or 9?
Right now we fell to 9, and it'd be a lot more interesting if we felt like we had a right tackle on the roster right now. But depending on what they do with Tevin Jenkins, that seems a little on the pigeonholed side. But you know what? They added DJ Moore. They added a couple future picks. I couldn't be happier with the trade down itself, Bobby. But
the DJ Moore part of that trade is so huge. Like DJ Moore, I might be one of the bigger DJ Moore fans in the NFL Twitter. I think he is so underrated.
He looks nice.
I saw ideas of oh, this guy's not really a good wide receiver one. It's like, no, he is a flat out wide receiver one in the NFL. Unless you're putting him on with a top 5 to 10 wide receiver in the NFL, he is wide receiver one, and you're very happy about it.
That's exactly how I feel about it, where we've done this thing where we've invented this class of receiver, the Jamar Chases, the Justin Jeffersons, and we've said, well, that's what a wide receiver one is. And if you're a Terry McLaurin type wide receiver, you're just, you're a low end wide receiver one. And it's like CD Lamb, DJ Moore, guys in that category that are outstanding football players, Bobby, especially guys like DJ that look nigh uncoverable. They've just had, let me list them: Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker. These are the guys throwing him the ball. Let's hold our horses on trying to put everybody in hard and fast categories when there are some aliens playing the same position as them. But it's a fun time to be a Bears fan, that's for sure. Frankly, it's a fun time for both of our franchises. 3 years ago, when we used to do interviews about the Bears and the Giants, it was much more depressing. Now it's a much better time for both.
Well, I'm going to say for the draft stream, obviously any fan would rather have the first pick than the 9th pick. Before the draft stream, the 9th pick is the perfect spot on round 1, because it's you got a good hour or so before you get to your pick.
Right.
But you're every pick coming off the board, it's let my guy that I want to fall to us fall. Right. And last year that happened to us with, I wanted Sauce more than Kayvon, but Kayvon, 2021, the Bears, the trade with the Bears, the Justin Fields trade, that was a trade down where it's we love trading down. It was it was great value for the Giants, but we were also Rashawn Slater's right there. Giants fans were mad because the Eagles traded up for getting Devontae Smith, and I was thrilled. I was thank you, Eagles, for trading up, getting Devontae Smith. Now we get Rashawn Slater there, and then they trade down Kadarius Toney. And we got Darren Waller out.
Got a sweet pair of picks.
But for the vibe, for the excitement of draft night, 9th is that really sweet spot where it's you're going to get a good player, but are you going to get the guy that you want to fall to you? So it'll be exciting.
That's if they stay there, Bobby. That's true. I'm not about to make any promises, but I will not be too surprised because, like you're saying, I don't feel like as many trades happen in the 6, 7, 8 region as they do starting 9, 10, and 11, where you start to get to plenty of draft boards across the NFL. They've got 10 blue chip players, 9 to 10 to 11 blue chip players. And suddenly you're running out of your blue chip players as you get around there. And a team around 16 says, I got to have my guy. And they come up for it. I don't know what the Bears are going to do, Bobby. I mean, they've got so
Who is
many
your
roles.
guy at 9?
As of right now, if I had to pick somebody at 9, it depends on what defensive end is there. Because if Tyree Wilson somehow falls to 9, that's a guy I am just salivating for, right? And who knows what's going to happen with Jalen Carter, Bobby? You don't, I don't. So, like, does he fall all the way to 9? Do the Bears have any interest at that point? But right now, if you made me choose, it's probably Paris Johnson. I mean, I don't know, but how do you feel about Skoronski? I'll ask you that.
See, I haven't even watched Skoronski yet because I know that we're not in that range right now, but I did watch Paris Johnson. I like Paris Johnson. He's not my favorite tackle prospect ever, but I think he's going to be really good. And
there's a safety factor there. I'm not even going to lie to you.
He's got the feet that you look for in a left tackle, and that's the most important thing. The rest of this, and I think his technique is fairly solid too.
Does it help you if I tell you he's got 36.5-inch arms?
Perfect. Like, and he's a guy who kind of understands, like, you don't need to be over punchy, like kind of let the battle come to you. Like, you know, defensive ends are trying to use your hands against you. So you'd rather let the battle come to you. Like, defensive ends don't like to bull rush. It's something I've noticed more and more, especially to do the offensive line report. Like a guy like Chase Young, obviously hasn't played the last couple of years, but I remember with him, he was going to be against Nate Solder. And I was like, dude, why are you not bull rushing this cat every play? You're trying to work around the corner. Defensive ends don't like to bull rush. And Andrew Thomas has said it in interviews. Like, he uses like this circle technique. He's like, I invite them, bull rush me. But defensive ends just don't like the bull rush guys. So
there's no player like some of these tackles that we've seen. There's not really a Penei Sewell in this draft, and that's okay. I mean, where the Bears are at right now, I can't help thinking it is this simple, Bobby. They just can't botch their first pick of the draft. Like, if they pick a Kevin White or a Gabe Karimi, to pull some really old Bears examples, then the franchise is going to end up in a hole. They need a guy that's going to come in and play relatively well, probably relatively early. And so there's some defensive ends that I'm all for. There's I know, like Carter, if he falls, that feels like, yeah, take the Tunsil pick, right? But within Johnson, for instance, I'm not about to try to pretend to you, Bobby, that I am just like, oh my gosh, is he the best player or what? It's more like he makes the team better at a valuable position, keeps you from having to spend $20 million on Mike McGlinchey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a pretty damn good left tackle in the NFL. And we know the Bears need that protection up front for Fields right now. And I feel like you get a guy like Paris Johnson. Obviously, you can't come in and expect him to be good right away. But if he gets better towards the end of the year, like, you can see some good things with that offense if Fields is able to progress as a thrower. But anyways, let's get into these mid-round draft prospects. This is an issue with me and you. We can go down rabbit holes for hours upon hours, which is going to make the draft stream great. So that I'm excited for that. Julius Brents, 6'3" corner out of Kansas State. We watch him down at the Senior Bowl when we talked our combine episode. You were on him, and then you did a thread the next day on him. He's your guy. Talk to me about him.
I mean, Bobby, that I can't say that I'm an expert in who Wink Martindale is, but when Wink Martindale was a wee lad and he was sitting in class, not wanting to listen to the latest English lecture, I imagined that he drew doodles of guys like Julius Brents, these dream corners that are so long and so tall. I mean, Brents, you said 6'3", 34-inch arms. He's got arms longer than some tackles, Bobby, and he uses them. I mean, we're talking about somebody who he had, if memory serves, one of the best combines, and I think he broke the broad jump record or at least got close to it. He ran quite a fast 40. His agility numbers are just as good as any of his other numbers. With this guy, Bobby, he's only a mid-rounder because he doesn't have the experience or the teaching to make him a first rounder. Like, this is a guy with better physical profiles than some guys, even like Joey Porter, if you ask me, but it's all potential. And so if the Giants like their defensive staff, if they think their corners coach can coach up the guy, then Julius Brents is absolutely the kind of guy you're looking for, because he played a couple years in Iowa in a zone scheme and then played a couple years in Kansas State in a cover 3 scheme that, if you ask me, Bobby, it pretty much accentuated everything he does not do. Because Kansas State, if you watch the tape I did, mostly asked him to play off coverage, not use his hands, and then fall into a cover 3 zone where he had to break out of a hip turn, which is just tough for functionally any corner out there. And he still held his own for what it's worth and had a couple huge pass breakups. I can't help but think that this is a guy who played in a scheme that I don't like for him in Kansas State and is going to end up with a slightly artificial drop. And yet he still may be the best prospect available in that late second round,
Corner is the position that I think is affected, like draft profile wise, by scheme more than any position in the in the draft. I really do. I don't think there's a position more where it's like the scheme really can move you up 20 spots or drop you down 25 spots, and can make it kind of hard to evaluate it at times. Like you said, like I think the short area quickness is really good. I mean, he had the best shuttle time for corners, at 6'3" at the combine. I think there's issues with some long speed, like getting beat vertically, and then when he does get like beat or stacked, then he's, full go, and then they'll, work in the comeback routes and beat him off of, cuts in and out. But when he like you said, the quick short area stuff, like he can flip his hips, he can pounce out of his back pedal really well. And when he is able to get physical, like he's able to stick in the hip of a wide receiver and stay with them no matter what they're doing. So I don't know if I love him as much as you, but like this is a guy who's, like you said, 6'3", has like great short area quickness. And like you said, there's a guy you got to let a coaching staff come in and mold, but like he fits the bill of what you're looking for in these long corners.
Bobby, I haven't been burned enough times by guys that I saw this potential and then it didn't show up on the NFL football field to start watching too much for stuff like corner technique yet. I mean, if I could tell you a blind area of mine in the draft, it's when you're talking about DBs. I'm not looking for a corner that's got perfect technique unless I'm really looking to differentiate in the first round. You know what I mean? They've all got to relearn the position because they're all going to jump into a brand new defense. And like you're talking about, Brents has some bad habits. Let's call them what they are. When you turn Brents' hips and get him in a full run, you mentioned this, he won't bother to stop with somebody who breaks for a comeback. I've seen him at times just assume the play's over. I don't know if his motor is what I would like it to be, but I also don't know if there's any corner, including a lot of the first round guys, Bobby, that have the run stuffing ability that Brents does.
He's great in run support.
On the edge, like against wide receivers on the side. So my thought is that what you lose in maybe some of that deeper area coverage, you can try to get by shading a safety in his direction, or even just taking your losses and forcing the quarterback to hold on to the ball a little while longer before he's got to throw it. Because there are some plays that Brents will take away that, to use, I don't know, other examples, guys like Deonte Banks, guys like, Clark Phillips, a lot of these smaller corners, they're just not going to be able to create the run stops that you'll get out of Brents. That's going to be the difference between 2nd and 9 in some cases versus 2nd and 4 off of a corner. Right. And so I don't know. I'm not trying to get obsessed over a corner that's good in the run game because it's more than that. We saw him at the Senior Bowl, what he looks like when he's allowed to be physical. And that's a pretty dominant player. It's just, there's a lot there. There's a lot that has to get refined. One of the rawer players in the draft, but 6'3", 34-inch arm guys with those hips don't grow on trees. And so
he's got good ball skills, and there's a couple times where he would kind of get caught peeking at the quarterback.
Right.
Alabama, like there was a play there they threw off the ball, and then against TCU, the running back came out on a wheel route, and it's like, you got to pick him up, and he kind of got caught peeking, and the running back got behind him. The Alabama one, they were able to score the touchdown, but the TCU one, like he was able to get back into the catch space and get a pass breakup in there, even though like he kind of had a crazy fall in there.
Like that link gets applied, like you're talking about, because for those that are listening, we're talking about a player that'll get behind him. It's like he loses his feel of where the man is in zone coverage. And then as the ball floats over his head, Alabama's Bryce Young threw a perfect ball, but Max Duggan left it just a little short, right, Bobby? Yeah. And suddenly Brent's got that hand in and snapped the ball away. And so it's it's really all going to come down to where he lands, if he has to play immediately, and how he handles the original shelling of being an NFL corner, right? Because any rookie that plays corner in the NFL, they're gonna take lumps awfully quickly, unless your name is Sauce Gardner, right? And so I'm curious to see what happens. Where do the Giants pick in the second round again?
57.
57 feels like it'll be about as early as anybody might consider taking Brents. But if he falls into the third, I mean, to me, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I have him, as like top of the third is where I get him. I just do my grades by like where do I like taking you, not necessarily like I just A plus, A minus, C, kind of like that.
I get you.
So Brent's at 6'3", like a lot of potential, and like you said, tested really well. Next on the list, we've got Joe Tippmann, the center out of Wisconsin, and he's a big center, 6'6", 313 pounds. And I think people are falling in love. Like, he's a good athlete in space. You get him out, you let him pull. Like, he does some good things like that. What is your reason for liking Tippmann?
Tippmann's bizarre. I mean, honestly, I put him on this list, Bobby, because I heard so much commotion about him. There were a couple guys where I just put him on the list blind because I thought there'd be an interesting conversation to be had. And Tippmann is exactly that, because he's so big and so long that true nose tackles or one techs can get inside his chest a lot easier than he can keep him off. And it feels like he struggles when somebody gets in too quickly. But at the same time, he helps expand your playbook in the run game because he can pull like an animal. Makes me wonder, honestly, Bobby, I know he plays center. Do you think he's better guard than he is a center?
I think at 6 foot, that's tough. I think he could benefit with having a little bit of space between him and the defensive lineman. Because like you said, he's a good athlete moving a space. I think between the A gaps, whereas what matters, I don't think he's flashing athleticism very much. No. And he's someone who loses the point of attack on almost an every down basis. And like, he doesn't have these dominant reps within the tackle box that you want to have for a guy who's kind of as touted as much as him. Like, he's constantly hands coming low and wide, and guys are getting the space in him. And it's just like, for a guy who's 6'6", 313 pounds, like, I want to see some dominant reps. Like, if you got issues, right, you got issues, but I want to see some dominant reps out of him. And I'm never like, wow, that's a great play out of Tippmann. So that's why I think he can be a starting center in the NFL for like a good amount of time. But I don't know if he's ever going to be like a really good one. And this is what mid-round draft prospects are. We're not sitting here. This is mid-round for a reason, right? But I just have a hard time falling in love with him. Like, where I'd rather, like, you know what? Maybe it's a few picks later, but I like Ricky Stromberg out of Arkansas. Like, that guy, I see there's some wow plays on there that get me excited about the guy. So with Tippmann, there's just too many negatives and not enough like pros for me to really fall in love with him, besides him being like 6'6" and being able to move well in space.
It's a question of whether you want to take a risk on shifting the paradigm of what a center is, right? Because normally centers are short arm for that exact reason. Snap the ball, get your hands up, fight the guy off of you is just implied, right? Because if the nose tackle or the one tech gets a decent jump on you, he's going to be in your kitchen. There's nothing you can really do about it. And if you drop anchor and hold on for your dear life, you can try to stave the guy off. With Tippmann, you're adding length that shouldn't be there. It's not unlike what with the Browns and Ethan Pochich, right? Where can you kit your scheme to get you set of a position that doesn't normally ask for these things? I mean, when Pochich, and in Tippmann's case, I saw it in some of his film against, I couldn't tell you what team it was now that I think about it. It might have been Ohio State, but he'll get on these wide zone plays. And when the linebacker tries to shoot through the gap as he climbs to the second level, he'll reach out one big arm, spear the guy on his outside shoulder, and stop the linebacker to where the running back, if he wants to, can hit the linebacker cold and fall forward an extra 3 or 4 yards compared to if the linebacker and the running back collided, right? But like you're saying, Bobby, I mean, the cake, if you will, those foundation plays, he actually struggles with a little bit more than, say, John Michael Schmitz or Luke Whippler and the other centers that you see in this draft. It's these other plays that guys can't do that he gives you access to, and questions whether the juice is worth the squeeze, right?
keep muting myself. Those things matter, like working in the wide zone, being able to work some pin and pull stuff. And for the Giants, like they love doing those pin and pull plays. They ran a ton of them this year. And I'm actually not like I'm fine with my center being 6'6". Like I'm okay with it. We saw with the Giants, Nick Gates move there from tackle in college there and do well before he broke his leg. So I'm okay with the 6'6". But like you got to be able to work your leverage well. Like you got to be able to throw, use that size to your advantage if you're not like that prototypical 6'3", 6'4" type player. So that's just my big hang up with him is like he's a good athlete. You get him out in space, but he just never flashes like the athleticism in between the A gaps. Like I don't ever see him firing off and getting into a defensive tackle and moving them. In pass pro, he loses the point of attack, I think, like I said, almost on an every down basis. Like when there's space in between the rusher, he's leaning, and there's going to be some ugly reps that he has. So there's definitely a lot there to work with him. Like you said, with I don't think he tested at the combine, but 6'6", 313, and you see on the film he can move. So there's stuff there to work with, but I just don't know if that is going to be realized. What's the word? Like I don't think the potential is going to be tapped. Like I think he's got potential. I don't know if he's going to be a guy that taps it though.
I think it's so easy, right, to look at a RAS card, like relative athletic score or something like that, and see, oh, this guy's a crazy athlete, and assume that there's a ton of potential. But like you're saying, I mean, he really struggles with his hands, Bobby. Like, yes, it's one thing to have massively long arms, which he does, especially for a center, but it doesn't mean that you know how to work your leverage or that a lot of those pieces of playing offensive line intuitively make sense to you. So I think Tippmann's going to be, if you ask me, Tippmann may end up falling into that Sky Moore category, right? Of somebody that a whole lot of draft analysts on Twitter are going to really like because he can do things that others can't, but misses the little down to down portion of what makes that center or a guard the center or the guard, where I almost wonder if I think he'd be good value in a third round, but it wouldn't surprise me if he gets taken before then.
I think he's going to go in the second round. I think someone's going to take him in the second round. Next on this list, I like this guy more than most. Demarvion Overshown, the linebacker out of Texas, 6'3", 229. I mean, this guy is a athlete, and he flies around the field. And what you would think for a guy who's as athletic as him and flies around the field, you think like, oh, he's great, like out on the perimeter in between the tackles, can use some work, and he can use some work there. But like this guy just operating within the box, Robert, I like him. Like I think his IQ of working the run fits is solid. Like he's not over aggressive or out of place, but when he does need to shoot a gap, he does. And when he's moving forward and like stack and shed block deconstruction, I think he does a fairly good job. Like he's not Jack Campbell or anything, but like he does a solid job on that. But crazy enough, his weakest area with blocks is out on the perimeter, facing fullbacks and tight ends in space. That's where you see like him get bullied. Like it's so weird. You would think this guy, like, hey, he's got a fullback or a tight end, he's going to blow their ass up because he's fast and he's a hard hitter. Which actually he is a big hitter, which I think matters more than people want to realize with the linebackers. But it's just in space, he gets dominated, and it's so weird for a guy who's that type of athlete who does fairly well in the box, but out on the edges, it's like this guy gets bullied by tight ends and fullbacks.
To me, can you tell I liked picking guys that need work? Because I think they're the most interesting ones to talk about, right? Overshown is another one of those victims, Bobby. You didn't even mention the fact Texas keeps wanting to put him on the line of scrimmage, playing like edge, more or less. And they'll rush him as a linebacker from outside there to occupy one of the tackles, but he's not very good at it, So you end up with 25% of his plays that are just he's filling space, and we're not getting to see his tape be what it is. But I'll tell you what, I can't help but think that if you put a little bit of development into him, you could have on your hands a really sweet will inside linebacker in a 4-3 or a standard 3-4 inside linebacker. I mean, the side to side speed line's really great. To me, the big thing about him, Bobby, he uses his natural speed and converts it to force really, really well, which is part of why to me he's so much better inside the box than he is out wide, because once he gets out wide, he's having to track to the outside, and I don't think he can turn his momentum, say, from east-west to north-south well enough to blow up a lot of those plays. But that's just me trying to rationalize what's happening when we're out there. Because like you're talking about, when he gets free run to the running back, he'll take guys' heads off just about. But you throw a blocker out there, he struggles a little bit. I also love his eyes in coverage. Texas does a lot of spot drop. It's nothing crazy. They're not doing a lot of the match quarters or Tampa 2 stuff that maybe gets him on the move a little more. But I feel like Overshown has a natural knack for covering real space in coverage instead of just, I got to drop at the spot the coach told me to. And I feel like those brainy linebackers are the guys that end up being the difference on 3rd and 6 when you know a slant's coming versus a linebacker who, oh, whoops, JSN just caught another first down and you're just turning around and pouting. You know what I'm talking about? Overshown has a little bit to offer in a lot of areas. And I can't help feeling like he's a linebacker I want to have my eye on, especially given some of the other guys in the class.
I like Overshown. Like, obviously he's not, you're taking him to the top 2nd round, but he is a guy that, like, if your team drafts him, you should be excited about, because he is this ball of clay that can be worked with. And like you said, like in the box, if he's moving forward and using some of that speed and explosion to get into blocks, he does really well. If they're able to climb up into him, then, you know, he's not the best. And again, that's where he's going to need growth and to add some strength. You know, he's only 229 pounds. It seems like every single linebacker I watch is only 225 pounds.
They're all light. And
we did an episode with Nick Filato, and it's like we were looking at Dorian Williams. I was like, I'm so tired of these safeties playing linebackers. Like, teach, like, don't let your, like, I don't care about college football as much. I want to watch you these guys for the draft. Like, have these guys add 15 pounds and then play the position.
Right. And Dorian Williams is one of the best examples of that. Another one. Have you watched Trenton Simpson yet?
Yo, I can't stand him. I cannot stand Trent.
I knew you'd hate him. And I mean, there are so many of these guys that, look, the Bears ran.
Like, I think Overshown's a better player than Trenton Simpson.
Well, I mean, he's certainly more well-rounded than Trenton Simpson, right? Like, it's Simpson. The one thing he does that I can't think of another linebacker in the class that does, Bobby, is he anticipates in coverage, whereas other linebackers react, or best case scenario, they feel the play coming as they move. But Trenton Simpson plays ahead of the ball when he's in coverage. But I bring up Simpson because Overshown wants to hit you. He likes contact enough that he's going to stick his head in a run fit if he has to be there. And I can't help but think that that's the difference between, again, we use down and distances, but on a first and 10 run, Bobby, that's the difference between 2nd and 7, which could go a whole lot of different directions, and a linebacker getting blown up in a 2nd and 3, which, hey, the series isn't over. Football's not always that dramatic, right? But one player can be the difference, especially when you're attacking that side of the field in 4 or 5 yards on the ground, which massively changes the way the defense has to call themselves on the downs after that, and can allow a free 10 yards. And you allow enough of those, obviously you give up points. It's so funny how when people talk about how football is a game of inches, this is the stuff they're talking about, right? Like, is your linebacker willing to fit the run, even if they're not going to win, to take a controlled loss and stymie the running back even just a little bit, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Overshown is someone who I at least see being willing to go and do that. You know, like, he needs growth there, but a willingness. Like teams' game plans weren't to run at, you know, Demarvion Overshown. Where if you're playing Clemson, like, I'll run at Trenton Simpson all day long. Like, bring it. Like, I will, point you out like Waterboy and say, you know, that's who I'm going at. Next on this list. So we actually talked about this, I think on the Senior Bowl, where it's like the first guy you evaluate always gets graded the harshest.
Right.
And that was this guy. So I had to, he did well at the Senior Bowl, had to go back and rewatch him. And he's like one of the few guys I go and change my grade on.
You watched Benton first?
Either one of the first 3 guys. Like, he was at least on the first day. And I graded this guy pretty harshly, and then had to go back and rewatch him, and okay, he's better than I gave him credit for. Talk to me about Keanu Benton.
To me, so Keanu Benton is a one tech that maybe he could play a little bit of three tech, comes out of Wisconsin, plays at a nice weight of like 315. And really what I see in him is a one gap penetrator that is developing as a pass rusher. This is, I feel like one of those crazy startup guys, right, Bobby? Because with somebody like Keanu Benton, you're sitting here saying, well, we're already seeing meager returns, but, or at least some returns, but you draft him, you develop him, and his pass rushing blossoms, you may steal a first round talent or like a low first round talent in the late second round. I mean, this is somebody who, if the Giants picked him at 57, I think that's a very, very exciting pick. Not that they should. I don't think he fits the Giants as well as others because of guys like Dexter Lawrence and the other players that they've got on the defensive line.
He's going to go to the Eagles.
He would, wouldn't he?
He's the Hargrave replacement.
Like this is a guy who he controls.
He's a perfect fit for what they do.
Controls himself in the run game really, really well, which in the NFL, if you can't play in the run game, you better be really good in the pass game. But what he can do and is attempting to do in the pass game, I mean, we're seeing long arms, we're seeing bull rushes, we're seeing rips and swims. We're seeing, I even saw at one point him attempt a ghost move. It did not work because, of course, he's just not agile enough to make something like that work. But I can't help but feeling like, Bobby, half the battle in the defensive line is the willingness to try something in a real game, you know? And when you see a kid on game tape experimenting with what is a long frame and within the context of I'm already good against the run game, whatever I can offer against the pass game is a bonus, you start to see a player that might make himself a decent weapon in the NFL. I got my eye on Keanu Benton. I like him a lot.
He has like some of the best quick initial wins that you're going to get for a defensive tackle as a pass rusher. You know, like you said, he works a multiple amount of moves, and that first step is really nice. Allows him to get in gaps, use his hands, and have these quick, like, embarrass offensive lineman reps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and especially, you know, like you said, he is a nose tackle who lined up a little bit at three tech for Wisconsin. And what I want to see out of him to like get to that level where it's like I trust you on a down out basis is like when he doesn't have that quick initial win.
Yep.
I want to see him push the pocket a little more, you know, or you know, get better at countering. Like those are the things I need to see out of him. And then in the run game, like you get him in single blocks, like I think he does a pretty damn good job. You know, I don't think he's amazing.
Double teams. Mm-hmm.
But when he's facing double teams, like he consistently gets moved way too easily. And then even when he's in like single blocks, like if an offensive lineman gets good leverage on him, he kind of loses. So again, that pass rush production will be valuable. And if he can work on those other things, that's why like I really do think this guy is going to be drafted by the Eagles for some reason, because they have the depth. They don't need to play this guy right away. Like he'll sit there and develop. And then in 2027, he's going to be making the Pro Bowl with 9.5 sacks.
Right. And I mean, with Benton, like you're talking about, I mean, right now, I feel like he fits a little bit better in a 4-3 defensive line because I see him as a one gapper. He's not somebody who's trying to two gap. And sometimes it's a little too obvious. You know what I mean, Bobby? Where you said it perfectly. You throw a double team at him and you'll erase him in the run game, but at least he's capable in those one gap scenarios, which he needs to be. I like what you're talking about counter moves. I always forget that college players can be expected. Like some will show you the ability to attack, get stymied, reattack, and aggress the pocket. Whereas it feels like Benton's a little all or nothing. Honestly, maybe that surmises his whole game in a nutshell, right? He's either winning, and usually winning pretty emphatically, or he's losing and it's not a good rep at all, you know?
Yeah, his pass rush is very boom or bust, which is like those quick initial wins are great. And it's like, I don't even need to see like counters. I don't need you to be doing Aaron Donald style out here. Like that, you don't need to be doing that.
Right.
But like, if you don't get it, like quickly transition, replace your hands and like try and at least push the pocket, so you can help your edge rusher get a sack or force a quarterback to throw the ball, a quarter of a second earlier.
Right.
Or muddy up a look for him. Like that's what I want to see with him. To like, if he can like start working to do like that, like this is a guy who's going to play as a rookie and play probably a good amount. As like a third defensive tackle for a team with a good D line group.
Right. And that's if he doesn't start out of necessity for a team, maybe in the Midwest that could use an extra lineman or two. I'm kidding, of course. But like you're saying, if he ends up playing as a rookie, I don't know if that's going to be great for him in the short term. He'll take his lumps for sure because he's got a lot to learn. But in the long term, I really like his upside as a passer, or as a, not just as a pass rusher, but as a holistic defensive tackle. There's a lot of these guys that can go play the run really well. Not a lot of guys can do what he can in the pass rush perspective.
Yeah, like he's guaranteed, like you said, even as a rookie, whether he's starting or rotating in, like he's gonna have pass rush production. He's gonna get a handful of sacks, sacks, QB hits, and pressure. So like that's why he's it's such an intriguing player for Wisconsin. All right, last on this list, we're going to go flash last, and that is Marvin Mims out of Oklahoma. I'm excited to talk about this guy, and I don't know exactly what he's going to be in the NFL, but what I do know is this guy is unbelievably capable to be a really good wide receiver in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Speed kills, Bobby, and his 4.38 speed, it translates to the film 100%. I mean, look,
he looks like he runs like a 4.34 on film.
Honestly, he does. I mean, the funny part about watching Mims, Bobby, is his first step is not electric. I mean, he ended up with a very average 10-yard split, and I'm actually not surprised because if we talked about his cons first, I don't think his routes are particularly precise. They're pretty round based on what I've seen. Usually takes him two steps to break, and that's if they let him break at all, because he ran a ton of 45-degree angle stuff in Oklahoma. But that 5 to 10 yard region, like off the line of scrimmage, he will dust people, and he will dust just about anybody. I haven't seen a corner that can really keep pace with him when, for lack of a better word, he's trying out there, Bobby. And the speed kills in the NFL. Like, that stuff matters. Your ability to get deep, get vertical, stretch the safeties, take a quarter's defense and push them back. That sets up plays for everybody across the rest of your team. Like you said, Mims plays outside. Mims plays inside. Mims plays at that Z spot. He's taken handoffs. He's taken swing screens. He's done a little bit of everything. And he's somebody that, you talked about scheme with corners earlier. The OU scheme did not do him any favors, especially in 2022. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah. So because he's 5'11" is not short, like you can be outside receiver, but he's 183 pounds. So he's a little lighter. And he did play the slot mostly when he had his most success, which was in 2021, even though he had a 1,000-yard season the last year. But in 2021, he was averaging 22 yards per catch on a 78% catch rate. That's insane to get leading the college football in yards per catch while also having a catch rate like that. Obviously, when you have a quarterback like Caleb Williams, it helps you. It helps you out. But Oklahoma, they didn't ask him to do much in the route tree. It was very much like go. But he did a good job of it. Like his speed is great getting past guys, and he effortlessly runs past defenders. And that's not just versus, tight man covers. Like, you put a guy in off, he is going to work leverage really well and dust you. Like, there was so many times where I just saw him not just he beat this guy. Like, no, just wide open because he just put a DB in a blender, and just has, you can just tell he has a natural feel for leverage with that speed. Like, he can go up and leap a little bit too. Where I think I don't know if slot is his area, because like you mentioned, he's not a good route runner. His routes are not crisp. They're very rounded out. They are, he can telegraph his routes at times. So I don't see him. He's going to get some slot reps, but I think I see his home in the NFL being on the outside as that guy who's going to win vertically, needs to clean up a lot of things, but man, he's got all the ability in the world. And what gives me a little hope is at least Oklahoma didn't really ask him to be a great route runner. They weren't asking him that. They were basically just hey, 9, show a skinny post and then turn it up the field, crosser, and then we'll give you some slants here and there.
Right. I mean, I had to go all the way back to 2021 to find him running a dig, which I watched a game and a half in 2022. Gets weird because one of the games that's out there is the OU Texas game where OU got crunched real quick. And
they're playing their tight end at quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. It gets messy. It's what are you going to get from wide receiver tape at that point? So we did see a dig. He can run them, and they're not bad. They're not good. Right. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up playing a lot of Z receiver with a little bit of outside, but at the NFL point, my biggest question is where do you draft him? Because the second round makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of receivers in that second round area. I don't think there's any way he slips all the way to the third, but at 57, he may very well be there. And I can't help thinking that that kind of speed opens up all kinds of things for more inside winners and other receivers across your roster that just don't have that kind of threatening speed, you know?
Yeah. Let's see, where is he projected to go right now? Is he projected to go in round 2?
It depends on where you asked and when you asked.
Yeah, I honestly
let's see.
I'm just gonna look at a mock draft simulator and see where they have him like ranked as wide receivers. Okay, so yeah, they have him like as their 67. So I guess he is a second round,
right,
possibly third round type guy.
The fact that he's not a complete receiver, Bobby, means that he's not going to be somebody that I think you're worried about getting taken at 50. That's more like Josh Downs. Zay Flowers obviously won't be there. He'll be gone. But some of the other guys that, who knows? I have no idea where receivers or where, NFL teams are going to have guys like Jalen Hyatt, guys like Quentin Johnston. I'm assuming first round, but you never know because we assumed the quarterbacks were going to get taken a year ago and they pretty much all fell into the third round, sans Kenny Pickett. So somebody like Marvin Mims, I think his speed makes him too attractive to take outside of the second round, but also he's not going to get taken all too early, right? 57 feels like a nice spot for him where the teams at the end of that second round area are going to start to salivate about him.
Yeah. So yeah, he's an exciting player. All right, Robert. I think a lot of times you're like, hey, where can people follow you? And people just tune that out. Go follow at Robert K. Schmitz on Twitter right now. Like that's not be nice to do it. Go do it. Like he's going to be part of our draft coverage. He's been part of it. Down to Senior Bowl, post combine, just kicking off draft month. So if you're a Talking Giants listener, you need to go follow at Robert K. Schmitz, especially as we are into the draft. So go do that right now. So you're coming in, what day are you coming in to the office? Because I know you're visiting family for like a day or two, right?
I'm visiting family, but honestly, I'm down for whatever. If I need to come into the office and then go out of the office, we can talk about it. I'll be in as early as Monday. So I'll be there as we start to really gear things up. And I mean, Bobby, it's going to be so much fun as we get set for I finally get to watch Thursday. Do you realize how many years it's been since the Bears had a first round pick? Like, yes, we took Justin Fields, but
that's so weird. I have not had that experience since 2005,
Oh my gosh, Bobby. After Khalil Mack, we didn't have a first round pick for 2 years. Then we went and picked Justin Fields, trading our first round pick. We finally get one. I've been starting mock drafts in the 30s and 40s for years. At this point, I'm so excited to get a first round pick to talk about.
We're picking 25th, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, I couldn't imagine not being part of the first day. It would be funny, like if you were a team that just didn't get like if the Giants traded from like 25 to like 33 or something, and it's like, all right, first round recap, get ready for tomorrow. Like, this is very weird.
Who is your guy at 25? If you had to pick one right now, I know we're real early in this.
There's a lot of corners I like. Like if Joey Porter Jr. could fall, like I would love him, but I don't know if he is.
If he doesn't fall, do you think Cam Smith?
I got to do a full. I'm actually like he's on my list to evaluate like after we finish recording this because the Giants are doing a top 30 visit with him. I kind of like Zay Flowers, man.
Oh, how could you not? Right? Especially after the season that Danny just had. I feel like adding wide receiver talent makes all the sense in the world.
I hate that I like him though, because he's short and we have all these short wide receivers, but he's not a slot wide receiver. So it's like you explain it, but it's like I kind of wanted someone who's 6 foot too, but
I don't think there's any way this would happen. But if somehow everybody gets freaked out about Quentin Johnston and he gets all the way to 25, look, I don't know where you have him right now. There are some people that are like, I wouldn't touch Quentin Johnston with a 10-foot pole, but I think there's a lot there. Like there's receivers, there's going to be some sweet corners. Like especially Smith would make a lot of sense. I think most places have him around 30 right now. You never know, but you're going to see another big long corner, but this one's better, right? So he's got all of the down fluidity that somebody like Brents probably doesn't. And I know you and I love Darius Rush. Who's to say where that guy's going to go? Because he had a fabulous Senior Bowl, which doesn't change everything, but it makes everybody go back and look at the tape again. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I like Darius Rush. But there is a lot of corners where it makes me feel a little comfortable. Like I bet you there's one I like there at 57.
right.
Like could a guy like Emmanuel Forbes drop to there. Like, and I like him even though he's like a stick out there. Um, so there's a lot of there's a lot of guys who I like am really excited about for pick 57. Where pick 25, I'm like I don't know who. Any guy I get excited about, I was like, this guy's probably going to be going the top 20. So,
right. I mean, even guys like Darnell Wright, if he ends up going in the top 20, I know you're not looking at tackles right now. I'm looking at tackles, but it feels like every time you fall in love with somebody, Adetomiwa Adebaware out of Northwestern, it's like, well, they've got him at 50. Who's to say he gets picked anywhere near there? Right.
yeah.
Do you remember all of the hullabaloo about Cole Strange last year with New England? Like, as soon as we really love somebody, there's always a chance that the NFL GMs think the exact same way and that he's just off on everybody's board. So it gets so funny around this time of season.
I'm just excited, and I'm sure for you, the Raiders, because like when you have the Raiders ahead of you, you can kind of pencil them in to not pick the guy you want. Like they are. Yeah, I know Gruden's gone, I know Mayock's gone, but it's like I just feel like they're going to do something weird at pick 7.
Well, in Seattle, like we've got a whole cast of characters when it comes to what's going on, like in the top piece of the draft. Like, obviously, I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be so much fun figuring out where's Anthony Richardson going to go, like, and everything else within that. But we'll figure it all out. I can't wait. I mean, it should be fun to put everything together.
No doubt. All right. Well, go follow Robert Schmitz. Like I told you, at Robert K. Schmitz. He's going to be a big part of the draft streams. Appreciate you as always. We appreciate the listeners. We'll be back on Monday. We'll have a mock draft video, not a podcast. And then Tuesday, we are starting our official draft previews. We're starting off with the edge position, which is a position that's not a dire need for the Giants, but sure as hell would love to add a third guy. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.